The words hung in the air of my parents' living room like smoke after an explosion. 23 relatives had gathered for Easter dinner. Ham cooling on the counter, tulips in crystal vases, children running through the hallway. My sister stood at the head of the table, holding what looked like official closing documents in a leather portfolio. $850,000, she repeated, her voice carrying that particular tone of superiority she'd perfected over 34 years. I know you've been struggling with the property taxes, so I took care of it. The buyers are a lovely retired couple from Chicago. Closing was this morning. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. The potato salad suddenly looked wrong, tasted like metal. What are you talking about? Your Lakehouse. She said it slowly like I was simple. The one you never use. The one that's been sitting empty for 2 years while you throw away money on taxes and maintenance. I found buyers, handled everything, got you top dollar. My mother beamed. Sarah has always been so good with real estate. My father nodded approvingly. Smart to sell before the market turns. My aunt reached over to squeeze Sarah's hand. What a thoughtful sister. I set down my fork carefully, the way you put down something fragile when your hands start shaking. Sarah, I never asked you to sell my Lakehouse. I never gave you permission. That property isn't for sale. She laughed, that dismissive little sound that had made me feel small since childhood. Oh, come on. You're always complaining about it. The septic system, the dock repairs, the property taxes. I did you a favor. A favor would be asking first. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. Inside, my thoughts were racing, cataloging details. Show me those documents. She slid the portfolio across the table with theatrical confidence. Everything's signed and notarized. The money will be in your account by Wednesday. I opened it. The documents looked professional. County clerk stamps, notary seals, official letterhead from Lakeside Title and Escrow. My signature appeared in 6 places. Perfect forgeries. Even the pressure of the pen strokes looked right. My uncle leaned in. $850,000? That's incredible. Property values up there have been soft. I'm an excellent negotiator, Sarah said, accepting a glass of champagne from my cousin. I pulled out my phone, hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. My lock screen showed a photo of the Lakehouse, the one I'd taken 3 weeks ago during my last visit. The dock I'd personally rebuilt last summer. The new roof I'd installed in October. The property I visited every other weekend because it was the only place that felt like mine. Who did you say the buyers were? I asked quietly. The Hendersons. Retired couple. They fell in love with the view. I nodded slowly, scrolling through my phone. And the title company? Lakeside Title and Escrow. Very reputable. Interesting. I found the number I was looking for. Because I had coffee with Janet Morrison from Lakeside Title 3 days ago. We were discussing refinancing options. She never mentioned selling. Sarah's smile flickered. Just for a second. Well, I worked with a different agent there. In a town with 1 title company and 3 employees? I pressed dial. Let me just verify these details. My mother's voice cut in, sharp with disapproval. This is Easter dinner. Can't this wait? No. I met her eyes. It really can't. The phone rang twice before Janet's familiar voice answered. Lakeside Title, this is Janet. Janet, it's me. I'm at my parents' house and I need to ask you something urgent. Did your office handle a closing on my Lakehouse property this morning? Your Lakehouse. Janet's confusion was genuine. No, absolutely not. We have no active files on that property. Why? My sister's face went pale. Actually pale, the color draining like water from a cracked basin. Could you check your system? The buyers would be named Henderson. Closing this morning for $850,000. Keys clicking on Janet's end. A long pause. Then, I'm not seeing anything. Hold on, let me conference in Tom and Maria. More clicks. Then Janet's voice returned, but different. Controlled. Professional in a way that meant trouble. I've got Tom and Maria on the line. And I'm going to tell you something, but I need you to stay calm. 3 fraud detectives from the county sheriff's office are currently in our office. They've been here since 9 this morning. Someone attempted to close on a property using forged documents and a fake power of attorney. The room went silent. 23 people holding their breath. The property, Janet continued, her voice carrying through the speakerphone I'd activated, was a Lakehouse. The forged signatures belonged to the actual owner. The person who brought the documents called herself the owner's sister. She had a fake ID, forged notarizations, and falsified title documents. My father stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against hardwood. The detectives, Janet said, and I could hear papers rustling, are currently placing that person under arrest. They asked me to contact the real property owner immediately. I'm guessing that's you. Yes, I said. My voice sounded far away. That's me. The person being arrested. Can you describe her? I looked at Sarah. She'd started backing toward the door. My uncle moved to block it. 34 years old. Brown hair. About 5'6". Wearing a cream-colored suit. That matches. Janet's voice dropped. The detectives want to speak with you. But first, did she show you any documents? Yes. A full set of closing papers. They're on the table in front of me. Don't touch them. Those are evidence. The detectives are coming to your location now to collect them and take statements. Your sister is being formally charged with attempted wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, and grand theft. The buyers were legitimate but had no idea they were purchasing stolen property. We caught it during the final title search. Your name was still on record, no legitimate sale had been filed. My grandmother made a small sound. Not quite a gasp. More like air leaving a punctured tire. How much? I asked, the question forming even though I knew the answer. Was she going to get from this? The escrow check was made out to her, Janet said. $850,000. She forged a power of attorney claiming she had legal authority to sell on your behalf. She would have walked out of here with a cashier's check for the full amount. My cousin, who worked as a paralegal, pulled out her phone and started taking notes. That's first-degree fraud in this state. 5 to 10 years minimum. Sarah finally spoke, her voice thin. This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to help. By forging my signature? I cut her off. By creating fake legal documents? By attempting to steal nearly $1 million. The property was just sitting there. It's mine. The words came out harder than I intended. I rebuilt that dock with my own hands. I spent 6 weekends replacing the roof. I refinished the floors. I planted the garden. That house is the only thing I've ever had that was completely mine, and you tried to steal it. My mother finally found her voice. Sarah, tell me you didn't actually forge documents. Sarah's silence was answer enough. My aunt, who'd been praising Sarah's thoughtfulness 5 minutes earlier, pushed her chair back. Dear God. The ghost ledger started writing itself in my head. Years of itemized emotional theft I'd never consciously documented. Every family dinner where Sarah's real estate expertise was praised while my tech career was called nerdy. Cost, professional dignity. Every holiday where her Lakehouse visits were checking on your investment, while my visits were finally using it. Cost, ownership of my own joy. The time she told our parents I was too busy with work to help with Thanksgiving, then hosted them at my Lakehouse without asking. Cost, autonomy. Years of subtle suggestions that I didn't deserve the inheritance that bought the property. That grandma meant it for someone who'd use it properly. Cost. My relationship with grandma's memory. The phone calls where she'd ask about my rental income from the Lakehouse, trying to establish the narrative that it was an investment property, not a home. Cost. Having to justify my choices to someone who had no right to question them. But this wasn't just emotional accounting. This was a spreadsheet titled, Premeditated Felony. Time spent learning to forge my signature. Months. Money spent on fake notary seals. $200 to $400. Research into title fraud. Hours of conscious planning. Practice documents before the final forgeries. Evidence of intent. She hadn't snapped. She hadn't made a desperate mistake. She'd planned this like a business transaction. The doorbell rang. My father opened it to reveal 3 people. 2 detectives in plain clothes and 1 uniformed officer. They had that particular stillness of law enforcement professionals who've already made their case. We need to collect the forged documents, the lead detective said, showing his badge. And we'll need statements from everyone present. For the next 40 minutes, Easter dinner turned into a crime scene. Evidence bags. Photographs. Voice recordings of testimonies. My cousin the paralegal volunteered information about Sarah's comments, her confidence, her explanation of the sale. My aunt remembered. Sarah asked me last month how power of attorney works. My uncle recalled. She wanted to know if I knew any notaries who worked weekends. The pattern emerged through their statements like a photograph developing. 6 months of preparation. Questions about my schedule, my property visits, my financial situation. She'd been building the foundation for this theft, testing whether anyone would question her authority. The detective taking my statement was methodical. When did you last visit the property? 3 weeks ago. April 2nd. I have photos on my phone from that day. And you never discussed selling? Never. I'm planning to retire there in 20 years. I've been renovating it slowly, piece by piece. My voice caught. It's the only place that feels completely mine. He nodded, writing. Your sister claimed you'd been struggling with maintenance costs? I have $73,000 in a dedicated property account. Taxes, insurance, and maintenance are automated. The property has needed nothing I couldn't handle. So the narrative she sold to your family. Complete fiction. He looked up from his notes. I've worked fraud cases for 12 years. This level of sophistication, the forged notarizations, the fake power of attorney, the coordination with fake buyers. This wasn't opportunistic. She's done this before or spent months planning. The detectives took Sarah into custody at the title company. They'd been waiting there, watching her celebrate her successful closing with champagne she'd brought herself. The buyers, a genuine retired couple, had been escorted out, confused and upset. Their earnest money was being returned. Their dream of lakeside retirement had evaporated because someone's sister decided to steal nearly $1 million. By the time the police left our parents' house, it was 7 p.m. The ham was cold. The children were watching movies upstairs, kept away from the chaos. The adults sat in the living room like survivors of a disaster, shell-shocked and rearranging reality. My mother spoke first. I don't understand. Why would she do this? I almost laughed. 850,000 reasons. But she has a good job. She has savings. She has a lifestyle, my cousin corrected quietly. The BMW she leases. The condo she can barely afford. The vacations she posts on Instagram. She's been living beyond her means for years. My uncle pulled out his phone, scrolling. Her social media from the past week. She's been posting about a life-changing investment opportunity. She was going to take that money and disappear. The ghost ledger expanded. Years of feeling guilty about inheriting the Lakehouse when Sarah got equivalent cash. Cost. Joy in my good fortune. Decades of being called selfish for keeping the property instead of sharing it with family. Cost. Confidence in my boundaries. Every argument where I was told I was too attached to things. Cost. Ability to enjoy what's mine. The underlying belief, reinforced constantly, that I didn't really deserve anything I had. Cost. Sense of earned success. But I'd also been keeping another ledger without realizing it. A ledger of evidence. Every property tax payment. Documentation proving I maintained the property. Every renovation receipt. Proof of continuous improvement. Every photo time-stamped with location data. Evidence of regular visits. Every conversation with Janet about property management. Witnesses to my actual intentions. The gambler's fallacy had worked in reverse. Sarah kept pushing boundaries, asking invasive questions, showing up uninvited, making comments about what she would do with the property. Each time I let it slide, she interpreted it as permission to go further. She thought my tolerance was weakness. She mistook kindness for blindness. But the procedural justice system doesn't care about family dynamics. Cares about evidence. The next morning I met with Janet at the title company. The detectives had collected Sarah's fake documents, but Janet had pulled the real files, proving continuous ownership, legitimate tax payments, proper insurance, regular property maintenance. The forensic handwriting analysis will take 2 weeks, she explained. But the notary seals were purchased online from a website that sells fake credentials. The detectives traced her IP address. She'd been researching title fraud for 6 months. 6 months. I repeated it, tasting the bitterness. The buyers are devastated. They sold their Chicago condo, packed their belongings. They're suing your sister for their costs. Good. Janet handed me a folder. These are your property records, updated and certified. I've flagged your account for extra security. No transactions can occur without in-person verification with 2 forms of ID and a thumbprint scan. Over the next 3 weeks, the consequences cascaded like dominoes. Criminal charges filed, for felony counts. Bond set at $250,000. Sarah couldn't make bail. Civil lawsuit from the buyers. $127,000 in damages including moving costs, storage fees, temporary housing and emotional distress. Professional consequences. Sarah worked in real estate development. Her license was immediately suspended pending investigation. Financial audit. The detectives discovered she'd attempted this before. Different property, different state 5 years ago. That case had been settled out of court. Family fracture. My parents hired a criminal defense attorney who told them the evidence was overwhelming. Sarah was facing 7 to 12 years. Extended family rallied around me. My aunt, I should have questioned why she knew so much about your property. My uncle, the way she talked about it, like it was hers to manage, I should have seen it. My grandmother, 91 years old and sharp as glass, she always wanted what you had. Even as children. 2 months after Easter, Sarah took a plea deal. 6 years in state prison, 5 years probation, full restitution to the buyers, permanent surrender of her real estate license, and a formal restraining order preventing contact with me. The judge's statement during sentencing. This was not a crime of passion or desperation. This was calculated theft, sophisticated fraud, and a profound betrayal of family trust. The court finds no mitigating factors. Sarah didn't look at me during sentencing. My parents sat 3 rows behind her, aged a decade in 2 months. I didn't attend every hearing. I had a Lakehouse to visit. 1 year later, I'm sitting on the dock I rebuilt, watching sunrise paint the water gold and pink. My coffee's going cold in my hands. The new security system I installed chirps softly when a boat passes. Just a precaution, though no one in my family even knows the new gate code. The property value has increased. Janet estimates it at $920,000 now. I don't care. I'm not selling. My parents sent a letter last month. Sarah's parole hearing is in 4 years. They hope I'll write a letter of support. They used the word forgiveness 6 times in 2 pages. I recycled it. My chosen family, Janet, my uncle who blocked the door, my cousin who took notes, my grandmother who saw the truth. We have dinner once a month. Sometimes at my Lakehouse. Always on my terms. The ghost ledger is closed. The balance is 0. Every emotional debt has been paid through consequence. Every boundary violation has been answered with prosecution. Every dismissal has been corrected with evidence. Sarah wanted my Lakehouse. She got 6 years to think about why some things aren't for sale. I got my peace back. And a really excellent security system. The sunrise finishes its show. The water settles. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. In the house I built with my own hands, on the dock I rebuilt with my own labor, living the life I chose, owing nothing to anyone who thought they could steal it. They thought I was too attached to things. Turns out I was just correctly attached to my own life.